Morning, guys. Going to do a little bit of a reaction video here to Mosdog's recent video about should the Orc clans be split into two books. Been quite an active discussion on his Discord. Really interesting stuff. I thought I'd just weigh in and give my little 2 cents here. I haven't watched this video properly all the way through. I started to watch it and thought, oh, I'll do a little reaction to this. Most of it will be first time and get into it. If you don't already know, Mosdog does a Greenskins channel here on YouTube. Brilliant channel. My favourite channel for stuff. So please check him out if you haven't already. Get into it.
So I've had the privilege this week of having great conversations in Discord and hearing all the ideas that everybody in the community has about should Orruk Warclans be split into two books, and will they be split into two books? But that, of course, is all speculation brought to you by patrons. Wybarian, what are the pros of splitting? Like, there are some advantages for the army to be split into two.
Hey, just before we carry on, I'm going to get my stance out early doors. I don't think they should be split. I'll get into why a bit later on, but it seems like the overwhelming majority of the community do want them split. At least that's the impression I got from the Discord.
Books. For those of you that don't really know, Orruk Warclans has been one book for many, probably since Fantasy, right? Because in Fantasy it was Orcs and Goblins, and then in Age of Sigmar they kind of like, you know, had the two, like the Bone Splitters and the Iron Jaws, and then they added in the Cruel Boys, and then we were all together in third under one book, and then Bone Splitters are gone, and now there's very much a distinct like Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys, and Big Wah has taken a back seat. Big Wah was like the Orc army to play in third. So what are the pros of splitting? So people argue that they'll get more attention, that if Orruk Warclans was split into two books, that each book would get the same amount of attention as Orruk Warclans does in total. So this would include things like lore, rules, models, etc., etc.
Okay, I'll just chime straight in here. I completely disagree with this. I don't know if Moss agrees with this or not. Obviously, he's just outlining what the community's saying, but I hard disagree. I don't think they get any more attention. Definitely don't think they get new models. Don't think they get any more rules. Look at smaller factions. So my other faction that I like to play other than the Greenskin stuff is Adna Deepkin. And they don't, up until recently when they got the Incarnate and stuff, where they got this? For like the whole of third, we got no attention. Got nothing really. There's more stuff in my Orcs book than that book. And I just don't think that's how GW rolls. I don't think splitting the books would get any more. I think if they did split the books, as far as lore, rules, models it would just be a fine split, and you'd get all of your Cruel Boys will go into one book, all of your Iron Jaws will go into another book, and that would be it. Obviously, there would be the manifestation and the faction terrain to deal with, and I think they would just split it as it is and be like, okay, you can use this faction and this terrain and this manifestation lore for both, but the books are now separate.
So this would include things like lore, rules, models, etc., etc. They would also be, another advantage is they would be more clearly branded for new players. So why are these the only two armies under one roof? Why is it that the dwarves and the elves all get their own books, but orcs only get one book?
So the rumor is that there's going to be a dwarf suit book as well for like Cities of Sigmar dwarves, Fire Slayers. How true that is, I don't know, but that is the rumour. But that withstanding, I completely agree. I don't understand why we are the only army that does this. I only know that I like it. But I do agree that they're clearly branded for new players. Would help, but at the same time, are they that much of a beginner-friendly army? Not Stormcast, and I get that it came in the box with Stormcast, but
and then, so for new players, it's like, I want to play Iron Jaws. Well, it's actually not Iron Jaws. It's actually Orruk Warclans. It's like two armies, but it's only one army, kind of. right? Like it would be more clearly obvious to newer players what the deal is, right? They would also they would also be consistent with other armies, like I said, dwarves and elves and orcs. Like, why are orcs the only ones under 2 books? It also, one of the pros of splitting is that it gives each of the 2 halves of the orc war clans a little bit more of their own identity. So if they were 2 books, they would probably need to have their own set of manifestations, and they would also need to have their own set of faction terrain.
Okay, so to address the identity, I actually don't think. Sorry, I don't think they have a lack of identity. I think everyone in the community still treats them as if they're 2 armies anyway. Even stats, no stats track Orruk Warclans win. They all track Ironjaw's Cruel Boys win rate. Whenever you speak to anybody that's involved in them, no one says, "Oh, I play Orruk Warclans." If they only play one, I play Cruel Boys, right? So, for example, I have both armies. I started Big War originally, but even I don't really play Ironjaws very often, and I don't say, "Oh, I'm an Orruk Warclans player." I sometimes say I play Orcs. Mostly, I just say I play Cruel Boys. I don't think there's a lack of identity there, and also to speak to the manifestations and factions, I just don't think I've got any chance of getting specific terrain and manifestations for both armies. I think there's such a long production time on designing, shipping.
Boss rock tower / scaregob totem that comes with different pieces for the 2 different Orruk war clans, so you can build it according to how you want it to look, is a good solution to this. Like, in the future you could have, you know, the like you could split them in this way and make it work that way. But the manifestations are kind of strange because, like, they're kind of like both but neither, you know. Actually, I'm not even sure about that. I need to double check this, actually. The Mork Spit Marsh, does it have an Iron Jaws? Oops. Does it have an Iron Jaws? Why can't I see anything? That's weird. Does it have an Iron Jaws way to build it? I think it does. Games Workshop,
So?
Whatever. I'm not gonna bother.
Although,
but you kind of get my point. It's like, why would Iron Jaws have a marsh? Even if there is an Iron Jaws bit that you can put on it, it doesn't really make sense. The Foot of Gork makes sense for Iron Jaws. It makes sense for Cruel Boys too, but you know, it is more Iron Jaws focused. And the marsh doesn't make any sense for Iron Jaws. Like, why would they have this, like, Mork Spit Marsh? It doesn't matter, right? It's also super confusing for content creators when they talk about Orruk war clans, because are they treated as 2 armies? I mean, they are, right? Like, for tier lists and for everything else, it's like Orruk war clans are treated like they are 2 different armies.
Yeah, that's what I just.
So, yep. So those would be the pros of splitting. For the cons of splitting,
Come on.
you would have to buy 2 different books.
That's the one.
If you're an Iron Jaws and a Cruel Boys player, you would have to buy both of these books separate from each other.
Well, let me just chime in here, because this is my big point. Games Workshop, Warhammer, expensive, man. So I play Ironjaws, I play Gits, I play Cruel Boys, I play Deepkin. Now I've got Chaos Dwarfs to do. Now, up until sort of this edition, I never used to buy a book. But with the whole, you can't even look at your rules anymore without paying for the book to get the code. I've sort of relented a little bit, because I got one of the books came with a box set, another book came with a box set, so I had 2 of the books anyway. So then I was like, I might as well buy the 3rd one, and so I ended up buying the Orc book, and I justified it to myself because it's like, well, I'm buying 1 book, but I'm actually getting 3 armies. Getting Ironjaws, I'm getting not Bone Splitters, the one I actually play, Cruel Boys, and I'm getting Big War. Now, Big War's a bit of a touchy subject, because that's the entire reason I started Orcs in the first place. Big War in 3rd edition, and I got, by the time I built it, painted it, all the rest of it, I got 2 games, and then they announced that Big War was going. Now it's So gutted. I got two special games in my little Wargog Prophet, which is in my cabinet over there. And they were wonderful. I played a few other games since then with them as like a bit of a flashback, but Big War was the entire reason I wanted to play Orcs in the
so it would increase the cost. This is one of the reasons that people think that we will actually see 2 Orruk Warclans books. People made that comment over and over and over again in Discord. But I think the really big con is that Big Wa might disappear, right? You might actually no longer have an army that is called Big Wa that you could take Cruel Boys and Iron Jaws in together and play them.
So this would be a massive, massive shame. I was one of the people that made the comments and said they probably will split the books because cha-ching. But I don't think they'll make any changes to the books when they split them. They'll just give them the half they've got. So, if Big War goes, that'll be a massive shame. And the state of Big War right now is not good. Terrible. Too restricted. But I don't want it to go. I really want it to come back. And not just so I can use an overpowered Wargog to mow down Gargants. But obviously the Bone Splitters are gone. But even as just like Cruel Boys, Iron Jaws, I want it back. But I want it to be like, you can take whatever you want. Keep it as it is now, like in terms of you need Cruel Boys, dude, to unlock certain Cruel Boys units. Fine. But this whole has to be even numbers of regiments. Just stupid. And it's like, I don't know, it's too restrictive and the rules aren't fun enough. But the concept of having like Iron Jaws rushing forwards on their pigs or on foot, some Cruel Boys shooting Alt Boys at the back, or a Gnash Tooth on the flanks doing some tricksy stuff, that gets me excited, man. I think it's so cool. And I sort of, a lot of people in the Discord were saying, oh no, they don't thematically align and doesn't make sense. To me, it makes perfect sense. We're all Orcs, and they're going to send your big Iron Jaws to do big smashy forward stuff. And then you're going to have Cruel Boys at the back doing more tricksy stuff, dropping buffs, debuffs, making things strike last. Like all these different elements. I think it's brilliant. It's only the same as every other army in history of the world. You don't, you're not sending your archers to the front to get mowed down to protect your pikemen. You have your melee heavy units at the front, and then your less heavy units at the back. Like it's just standard.
As if they were one
on that for ages. So
there are workarounds for this. For example, you could have like an army of renown that is in both of the Iron Jaws and the Cruel Boys books. That's called Big Wa and says that you can take other like the other faction. And this might actually be really cool because if both the Iron Jaws and the Cruel Boys have their own Big Wa armies of renown and they're different, that could be super cool. It's like maybe you can include, in the Iron Jaws one, maybe you could include, up like one regiment that can't be the general, that's all Cruel Boys, and it can be anything you want, and maybe it's vice versa in the other one, and then maybe the rules are different, right? So it's like they have, like, that could be pretty cool, but there is a risk that if you do split the books that you lose Big Wa. If you remember, in 3rd edition, Big Wa was the army to play. Cruel Boys were pretty junk. Iron Jaws were fine, but they just like were pig spam. But I had so much fun playing Big Wa in 3rd edition. Yeah. I had a unit of Gore Gruntas, I had a big pig, I had some goblins, I think it was the Snarlfang Riders that were allied in, I had Bolt Boys, I had Swamp Kala Shaman, I had some Ard Boys as screens, I had some Brutes. Like, I had so many, and a Wargog Prophet, of course. How could I forget the only good Bone Splitters unit in Big Wa? But I had all.
This might just be like a me thing, but I love playing armies that have variety. I'm not a spam this unit good type guy. I don't like. I want a bit of everything. When I collect an army, I started this hobby as a collector, not as a player. I wanted to paint. Still have that mentality when I buy armies, so I will buy everything. I'll have some version of everything. Like my Deepkin, for example, I think there's only one unit I don't have, and I have a proxy for it. Soul Scryer. Cruel Boy, same thing. I've got every single unit of boys. Someone went painted. Killer boss, I'm looking. But I have them all. I want, and then I also want to play them. So I like armies where big variety of play.
All of these units mixed together, and it was so much fun, and it was super strong. I went 3-2, had my very first GT. It was so good. So I don't know, like if we look at the pros and the cons of Ironjawz or of splitting Orruk Warclans into 2 books, I don't really know how I feel about it. I think that I would be like, because who buys books, right? If we're being real, I don't think that they would get more attention if they get split. I think they'd get the same amount of attention.
Great.
So I don't feel like that's a very powerful argument. Like, it's not like GW's all of a sudden going to care way more about Orruk Warclans or destruction in general, right? I think that it being more clearly branded to new player. I literally had someone today message me, actually, in Discord. Shout out to my patrons here. But who was it again? It was Alberta? No, Canuck. I want to say, yeah, Age of Canuck. He asked, like, so as a new Ironjawz player, is it necessary to get Cruel Bull units as well, or only if I'm going to, plan on playing Big Wa? So there is confusion that like Ironjawz and Orcs are, or Ironjawz and Cruel Boys are under the same roof.
Yeah, so I sort of agree here. Like I said, it's a bit like I'd argue that that's also the same for Regiments of Renown. Do I need it in my army and stuff? I feel like the new player angle, okay, sort of see it, but not really. Game's confusing. What you do, you're always going to have that.
So that is a relatively powerful argument for pros of why the book should be split. Consistent with other armies, that's another pretty good argument. Lack of identity, I think that's another relatively good argument. I wouldn't actually mind having my own manifestations. Like, it's like you should have the manifestations of Gork and you should have the manifestations of Mork, and they should be different from each other, right? And they should be cool, like more specific. I don't think that'll happen, right? So yeah, I mean, like, I think that I would like to see the books split if we can keep Big Wa. Our Regiments of Renown don't count. People were saying that, oh, you can just take like a Regiment of Renown. It's not the same thing. I want to be able to like pick and choose what Ironjawz and what Cruel Boys units I put in the same book. So GW, if you're out there, if you're listening, shout out. No shout outs. But I would love to see, if the books do get split, I would love to still see a Big Wa as a rule. It should be in at least one of the 2 books, or it can be a supplement, right? It can just not be in either book and just come out all on its own and say, here's a rule for Big Wa. It could stay exactly the same as it is right now. I just think it's super fun to be able to put everything on the table and play it like that. I think it's great. I would also love to see, if I'm being totally honest, I would love to see a Big Wa where Kragnos has to be the general, and you can also take like Gits as well. Like, I would love to see my Orcs and Goblins all being on the table and being
Goblins
able to pick and
and
choose
Orcs everywhere.
right? But I know that's probably not going to happen. So, yep, that seems reasonable to me. Okay, so the next question is, will GW split Orruk Warclans into 2 books? So I think that the probability that it happens, obviously, in 3rd edition in 4th edition is 0, because we've already got our book. So the question is going to be, will it be happening in 5th edition? Probably. I think that for GW, there are some pretty good reasons why they would want to. Like, for example, they do want to have 2 different books to sell.
So for me, if the question to whether they split it or not, I think comes down to whether or not they soup the dwarves. If they soup the dwarves, then they won't split. Don't soup the dwarves, then it's a 50-50. Especially since that they've kind of classic GW to get everyone to buy the 1 book, then collect both sets of models, because it's like, hey, well, I've got the book anyway. And it's like, well, actually, now that you've got the models, you need 2 books. It's like, if the dwarves get souped, probably not. If the dwarves don't get souped, then potentially, yeah, because
I think that's obviously in their advantage. I do, however, think that there is a slight problem. Is what are they going to do with the manifestations? Right? Like, if the manifestations have to belong to one army or the other, because they come in a kit. So if they suddenly tell all the Ironjawz players, like, hey, the manifestations that you have for your army aren't good for your army anymore, and they're basically useless. If you're not a Cruel Boys player and you have the manifestations of Gorka Morka, then you have to just buy a new set of manifestations. I think that would be a really bad PR move. So if they do keep the books the same, GW is not going to be able to split the tower and the manifestations. They're going to have to stay with both armies. So as long as that's kind of what their plan is, I think that's the way to do it, right? It's like the faction train and manifestations stay good for both armies. It kind of has to be that way. I don't think it can be any other way. Let me know what you think down below. Should they split? Will they split? Join the Discord.
No,
like,
maybe.
Subscribe. Wow.
Like, subscribe. Wow. Yeah, that was cool. So, yeah, I don't think they should split. I love having 2 to 3 armies in one book. Can't see a benefit of it. Most of the pros to splitting, I think I've sort of covered on why I don't agree. Just gonna give a quick thing about Big War again. Again, Big War is the entire reason I started Orcs. I want it back, and I want it good. As it stands right now, I don't care. The rules are fine. I'm not too bothered about the rules. I would play it. Just find too restrictive.
Just the fact that you have to basically be 2 or 4 drops makes me not want to play it.
Great idea. Potentially make it like 1 regiment
of Cruel Boys in an Ironjawz army, or 1 regiment of Ironjawz in a Cruel Boys army.
But I think realistically, they should let us put whatever we want in it. Like, make it like every other army. So, if I use a regiment that starts with whatever leader Ironjawz, that unlocks the Ironjawz. If I make another regiment with that, unlocks the Cruel Boy stuff. There can be a couple of people in there, obviously Ragnos, Gobsprak, or Gordrak or something, that unlocks both units from both armies. Pretty please. Anyway, I don't think we should split. I don't think they will anytime soon. Potentially in 5th edition, maybe not. What happens with the dwarves? But yeah, please, if you've watched my stuff, you've probably watched him Moss. If not, please go check him out. Please subscribe to his channel. Jump in his Discord. I'm very active in his Discord. Feel free to jump in mine. I'm trying to get that going off the ground, but not a lot happening at the moment. But yeah, Moss is a great dude. Massive respect to him. Subscribe to him. As Moss would say, like, subscribe, and wah. To the next one.